How much money does it actually cost to set up an Airbnb business? This is the common question I get asked all the time. And I see a real big difference in terms of what people think is actually required to get started. Some people think you need as much as 10 to 15,000. On the other end of the spectrum, some people think you can get started with no money or literally less than a couple of grand. So in this video, I want to make it super clear in terms of how much money it actually costs, or like sort of rough costings. If you are looking to get started in Airbnb, you can kind of budget yourself and allocate some funds aside to be able to invest into this business. I also want to reveal the truth on these other sort of no money down, zero money down property strategies that other people may talk about and how they actually work, because sometimes they're not always as glamorous as they may first sound. So let's just get straight into it. Now, firstly, it's important to note that you can't start any business with literally no money, not requiring any kind of investment at all, because first and foremost, you actually need to set up a limited liability company, and that does cost. It's not much, albeit it's probably around 30, 50 pounds to do it through Companies House. But when it comes to rent and doing Airbnb, there are a few compliances that you need as well in order to make sure you're actually legally operating. So in terms of setting up your business and then also getting compliant, you should probably allow for around 250, maybe 300 pounds, just so you've got everything in place. So that's just something you need to bear in mind, that it does cost money to actually set up the business and be compliant. If you wanted to get like a website domain or get someone to create like a logo or something for you as well, then it's not necessary, but you can look to buy that as well, and that'll probably cost you maybe another 50 to 100 pounds. And once you have all of that in place, you can start actually looking for property deals. So in terms of what it actually costs you up front to get a property, it's basically broken down into three costs. The first one being first month's rent. The second one is the deposit. And thirdly, any kind of furnishing works to bring the property up to standard and get it fully ready for an Airbnb guest. So to go through these in order, so firstly, first month's rent. This is something you will need because you basically pay your rent in advance. So let's say you were going to take on a property for the 1st of Jan. The landlord or the estate agent will probably want you to pay that maybe at the back end of December, or literally maybe on the 1st of Jan for the month ahead. So you need to be able to have that first month's rent sort of to be able to cash flow you, because obviously you're not going to start earning money until you have guests who stay on your property, and quite often you're going to receive the payments for those guests after they've actually checked out. So it's important that you have that available at the beginning, pay the first month's rent to the landlord or to the estate agent. And obviously this cost will massively depend on how much the rental property is. Obviously in the UK, I mean, I'm in London, so you're probably looking at anywhere from maybe like £1,400 to 2.5 grand a month for like a 2-bedroom property. However, the more north you go, you could even get some 2-bedroom properties, maybe even as low as like £600 in certain areas. So it honestly really depends on where you are located and also your budget. I've got some mentees who have taken on units literally like 750, 800, 900 pound a month. I've even got, I've got some units myself. They're over like £3,500. So obviously work to your budget and also like your local rents to see what makes sense. But I'd probably say if we're looking at a 2-bedroom property, allow from anywhere from about £700 to let's say £1,600 for your first month's rent. Also just on that as well, sometimes people think you need to pay like several months of rent up like in advance to get a deal done. I don't really like to do that. For me, I don't see any difference in terms of me renting a property versus a normal tenant. You're not going to ask a normal tenant to pay 6 months worth of rent up front. So there's no reason why I should as well. By all means, if you have the capital available, you can incentivize a landlord or an agent by maybe paying 2 or 3 months in advance if you want to, but to me, it's not required. So sometimes people say online that you need to pay several months in advance. It's not true. Quite often, I've only ever paid 1 month, and sometimes with a deposit, and then that's literally me picking up the keys and I'm good to go. Which then kind of leads on nicely to the second cost, which is going to be a deposit. So in the UK, landlords can legally charge you up to 5 weeks worth of rent as a deposit, and they'll just hold on to that. That will basically sit in a scheme throughout the whole kind of tenancy, and if there is any damage or they need to claim for anything or any like void periods in rent, that will be taken from your deposit. So really and truly, you're meant to get that property back, obviously providing that you return the property in a good enough state. So it's not exactly a cost, but it is required for your upfront, again, for your cash flow, because it's going to be money going out you're not going to get back for maybe a couple of years. Now in general, landlords or agents normally want 1 month's worth of rent as a deposit, but like I said, you can sometimes have to pay up to 5 weeks. However, actually for myself though, I probably only paid deposits on maybe around a quarter or maybe a third of the units I've actually taken on. One of the things I like to negotiate when I do take on properties is to not actually pay a deposit, because especially if you're looking to rapidly grow your business, it doesn't really make sense to pay a deposit. Because let's say, for example, let's use a round number like £1,000. So let's say your rent was £1,000 and they also wanted you to pay £1,000 deposit. Well, let's say you wanted to take on 10 properties over the course of a year. You've now got £10,000 in deposit money that's just sitting in schemes that you can't actually use. So it doesn't make sense for us. It doesn't really even make much sense for the landlord either, because because they can't really use that money. It's not like they can go use it, go buy a new bag for their wife or something like that. It's meant to sit in a scheme. No one's meant to touch it. So one of the things that I like to negotiate is to not actually pay a deposit. And that's one of the things I actually show all of my mentees how to do as well. So I show them all the different negotiation tactics and strategies that I utilize as well. That essentially helps us reduce the upfront cost for properties. But let's say, for example, it's your first deal, you're out there doing it on your own. A landlord is normally going to want a deposit from you, probably equal to 1 month's worth of rent. Therefore, so far, your upfront costs are going to be 1 month's worth of rent and also another month's worth of rent as a deposit. Which then brings us on to the third cost, which is your furnishing and staging costs. Now this one can really vary because obviously it will massively differ if you've got a 1 bed or a studio versus a 4 or 5 bedroom house. But also a property can come completely unfurnished, meaning has no furniture. It can come fully furnished or partly furnished. Maybe it just has maybe a couple of beds, some wardrobes and that sort of thing inside. So it really depends on the spec in terms of how you've taken on this unit. But for argument's sake, and to make this very easy, I'm just going to talk about completely unfurnished properties. So saying you're literally taking on empty rooms and you've got to buy all the furniture to put in. So with furnishing, it can be something where you can easily go over budget and just completely run it up. Or at the same time, if you try and do it too cheaply, you can save a lot of money, but then it may not include all the things that a guest would like. Because you're not just furnishing it for things like your bed, sofa, dining room table, you also need little like decorations, maybe you need some like lamps, little things like this. I'm in one of my properties now, like TV, Wi-Fi routers, bed linen, towels. There's so many things you need to think about to actually purchase, including a lot of like amenities for like your cleaning products, also like teas, coffee, sugars. I've got a cleaning cupboard behind me. I might even just open it up in a second to show you like what we keep inside our cleaning cupboards as well. These are all things that we had to purchase initially because you need something to float you before you then have to replace it maybe in couple weeks down the line once you start having some guests in the property. So let me show you what we buy from like an amenities perspective to keep inside the property as well. Inside our storage cupboard. So this out of the way. Yeah, cool. To be fair, I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but we basically keep a big cupboard full of like loads of spare shower gels, shampoos, what else we got in here? Teas and coffee, stuff like this. So we've got cleaning products, loads of like dishwasher soaps, along with loads of spare linen and towels. So you need lots of spare sets like this that you need to keep inside the property as well. And some other bits and bobs like bin bags and stuff like that. To be fair, that might have been a bit pointless. I don't know if you could even see inside, but you get the gist. There's a lot of things to buy. So I guess going back to the cost now. So for a completely unfurnished 2-bedroom property, if you're looking to do it like on a budget, be quite resourceful, maybe purchase a few items from like Facebook Marketplace or Gumtree and stuff like that, you could probably do it for maybe just under £2,000, maybe around up to like 2.5. If you wanted to buy everything like new and do it up a bit nicer, maybe looking around £3,000, maybe a little bit more. And then if you're looking to spend, you had like a big budget and you wanted to do it very sort of to a high spec, very luxury, then maybe upwards of maybe 4, even slightly more. But on average, I'd say for a 2-bedroom unfurnished property, £2,500, £3,000 is what you should be looking at for furnishing costs. Now again, that is for completely unfurnished. A lot of people, because they have limited funds, prefer to go with partly furnished properties or properties that already come fully furnished. So I've got some mentees who have been all in for units for literally like £2,000, £2,500, including rent, deposit and furnishing costs. So it can be done, but it'll just mean that there's less options available for you. You'll just have to pick a property that does already come furnished, and there'll probably be less on the market, but if that's where you want to do it, then obviously you just need to look for those particular types of properties. So in conclusion, what I'd say is that if you're looking to get started in rent-to-rent, Airbnb, and you want to take on like a furnished property, you don't want to spend too much money on it. On the lower end, you could probably do it all in for about £3,000. In general, most deals will probably cost you anywhere from maybe £4,500 to £5,500. And if you wanted to take on like a really nice deal, maybe an expensive area, maybe somewhere in London where rents are slightly more, or you want to spend a lot of money on furnishing and staging costs, then maybe looking at around maybe £6,000 to £7,000 on the top end as well. So hopefully that gives a bit more of a clearer understanding about the costs that are involved to actually take on your first unit. Obviously, that's what will be needed to invest upfront. Then from the months ongoing, you'll be having guests who are going to be coming in, paying you, and that's going to be able to cover your expenses, cover your rent, and then for you to make a profit on top. For most deals, you sort of want to break even at least sort of within 6 months. So that means all that money that you spent on furnishing, staging, and maybe even like the deposit money as well, you can kind of make that back within 6 months. That's generally what you want to aim for, and that's sort of a good deal that we look for, because don't forget, you're going to have this property for at least like like 3 years, ideally even longer. So this is an investment, this is a long-term game. You're gonna have these properties for a long time. You've got plenty of months to make a profit from these deals. So putting in £5,000 into a property that's gonna make you £700 profit a month, to me, it's a no-brainer. And that's probably why I think rent to service accommodation is the best strategy there is within property right now. But like I said at the start of the video, there's actually a couple of other strategies that you can make money from property, or people say you can make money from property with no upfront cost or any investment or things like that. Now, these two strategies are what's known as deal sourcing and also co-hosting. So co-hosting to me is basically management. A lot of people call it co-hosting because that's what it's called on the platform of Airbnb. But that is essentially where you will manage somebody else's property for them and you charge them a fee. Someone has a property, let's say a landlord, they don't have the time to run the Airbnb, they don't want to deal with guests, they don't want to deal with cleaners, that sort of thing. So they give it to you, you will then manage the property, and at the end of the month, after all the guests have paid, you take a little percentage from that amount. It could be 10, 15, even 20%. So obviously, technically, this doesn't actually require any investment because you're not financially liable for any of the rent, you don't pay any of the bills, you didn't have to put any money in furnishing or anything like that. So it can be a good model to make money because it doesn't require any investment. However, the part of this sort of strategy that no one talks about is that if you have no properties at the moment, it's going to be very challenging for you to convince somebody else to trust you with their Airbnb when you have no experience anyway. Like, so for someone like myself, I've managed properties all over the UK. So I've got experience in managing properties. I've got some of my own rent to rents. I've got some other management clients. So I can show that as evidence and proof to new potential clients and landlords that I'm able to manage their properties as well. But when you're starting out in property, if you've never managed any properties before, you're gonna have to come up with an amazing script to offer some crazy value to get someone to trust. That's the thing that no one talks about. A lot of people say, yeah, co-hosting is a great method to get involved in property. And don't get me wrong, it's a great strategy. I do have a lot of management properties myself. But when you're starting out, I think it's going to be too difficult for most people trying to get deals. The way most beginners will be able to get their first deal through like co-hosting or management will probably be because they know the landlord themselves. So that can be a great way to get it. Maybe you speak to someone you know in your network or an immediate family member or something like that. Or maybe you just offer something crazy like 2 months worth of free management. If you don't like it, then we separate ways or something like that. But like I said, I think it's going to be very difficult for new people starting out, especially where there's big management companies who manage like hundreds, like even way bigger than myself, manage hundreds of thousands of properties. So why would they choose to go with you rather than not giving to one of these management clients and companies? That's what you got to think of and be able to show them why you are a better option ultimately. Now moving on to the second strategy, so deal sourcing. What is deal sourcing? So this is essentially where instead of finding deals to take on yourself, so you calling agents and landlords, then taking on the property, signing contracts, paying the rent, running the properties in Airbnb, that sort of thing, you actually sell the deal on to somebody else who is an already existing operator. So let's say, for example, you find a landlord who's got an amazing deal. You then come to someone like myself who already manages properties and you say to me, cool, Elliot, I've got an amazing deal for you. Are you interested? And I say, yep. And I buy the property deal off you for normally around £3,000. So that's the way it works. Think of it like a finder's fee for a property or like a broker. You basically just connect investors with agents or landlords, and then you take a fee for it. So again, it can be a great way to make money. If you can sell one deal a week, then obviously you're making great money. So again, it can be a great strategy. I mean, if you can sell one rent deal every single week, that's £3,000 a week, and you're making great money. The downside is it possible to do that? Yes, but not everyone does. Obviously, it's difficult trying to find investors, people who are serious about actually buying these deals, being able to find landlords, agents who are willing to work with you to then effectively sell the deal onto someone else. So there's a few kind of moving parts. And another reason why I think taking on your own Airbnbs is better is because deal sourcing is great. You can make a quick £3,000, but then there's nothing after that. You've now got to go out your way to find more deals, find new investors, and continue selling and selling. You've got to keep moving to make any money. When you have an Airbnb property, once you've got that first deal, you sign contracts, you can be making money every single month, almost passively, once you've got the right systems in place. So you know next month, I'm still gonna make money. The month after, I'm making money. But with deal sourcing, you've got to keep going out there and chasing new deals. So that's the kind of only downside. I like the fact that I've got a property that I know I'm gonna have for the next 3 years. It's gonna be making me money over a long period of time. It's gonna make me way more than just a quick £3,000. When you have your own rent-to-rent properties, you're in control. You've got predictable income coming in. You can control the service you give to your guests. You can get better reviews and more bookings in the future. And your income isn't limited by just what deal you have next, or let's say you're doing co-hosting, it's not limited by a percentage, but you can only really make up to like £400 a month from a particular property. When you have your own rent to rent, really and truly your earnings can be uncapped. If there are certain nights where you can charge triple your normal nightly rate, well, all that money is going in your pocket. You're not having to share a percentage with like your management client, or you've already sold that deal onto another investor for a quick fee, so now they're making all that profit. You get the majority of the upside. You have something that's going to be lasting and something that you can then use to help you grow your portfolio as well. Because it's evidence. You have live listings, you have reviews, you've got an Airbnb account that's been running, you've got a booking.com account that's running, it's getting in bookings, it's got reviews. So you can help this grow and expand your business and just really grow your portfolio. So for me, I just think taking on your own properties is the best way to go down. You can always be more resourceful and try and take on deals that will cost you less, but it just also means you have a little bit of backup funds just in case you need to float yourself or there's any last minute maintenance issues or anything like that with the property. But if you do have anywhere from £3,000 to £6,000, then you're more than good to go to take on your first deal. And there's no reason why you won't be able to kind of use that to start building your portfolio from there. So there you have it. That's what's needed to start your own Airbnb business. Hopefully you found this video helpful or insightful. And if you did, please drop a like and subscribe to the channel. But thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next video.